Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Today we are reviewing the new movie, and I probably get the title wrong. Godzilla X King Kong, A New Empire.
No, it's called Godzilla X Kong,
Oh.
The New Empire, because King Kong would have been too many words.
Oh.
So I'm gonna lead this review because Safi, she's kind of, she was like, this morning I was like, you gonna watch that movie? And she was like, yeah. And the movie kind of bitch slapped her, Right, Safi? Is that how you would describe the experience? Like, you're just I don't know.
There's hardly any story.
Yeah.
I guess there's a lot of good scenes if you like to just watch monsters fighting each other. And there's a little bit of the little girl who was in it last time and has a psychic connection with King Kong, and King Kong knows hand signs, and so she's in it. And then Marco said there's other characters. Her, what would you call it, stepmother?
Okay,
mother.
let's talk about the movie now. Let's not do that.
Well, there's nothing much else to say.
Well, that's a complete lie because okay. So I would say this movie overall, as you can tell, Safi was bitch slapped by it. I thought it was mediocre at best. I thought that the last one was a lot better, Godzilla vs. Kong.
Why?
Because it had more monsters in it. This movie hardly had any monsters in it at all. True. It was mostly just human crap again, whereas Godzilla vs. Kong had a lot of monster stuff for, I would say, like, the majority of the movie. And this one, like, pulled back, in my opinion. Like, it had a lot of Kong, I guess, like, throughout the movie, but it was kind of like a trick, because they'd show a little scene of Kong, and then they'd show like 15 minutes of the humans talking about the stupid exposition, the stupid blah 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 that I don't really care about at all, exploring some stupid environment that isn't real, and then you have, oh look, there's a 5-minute scene of King Kong, and he's really old and worn out, and he's scratching his what, and like that's like the story with him in this movie. That's a story.
Well, what was really where the title says King Kong X
Godzilla, and what does that mean?
Godzilla doesn't even come into it. Well, he's at the beginning, but as far as them facing each other, that doesn't happen until after, like, 3/4 into the movie.
Yeah, like
at least half of the movie is over before they even...
Godzilla is hardly in the movie. He's in the movie for like 10 minutes or so. King Kong is in the movie for like 40 minutes, I guess.
He's in the movie a lot longer.
Okay, so it says it indicates one of several things for the X thing. Most likely, these two people are being put into a relationship in some form. That's kind of weird.
I guess.
That's weird. They should have just put Godzilla and Kong, the New Empire. But then again, what is...
But they're not going to be together because...
Yeah, they're not together till the last, 15 minutes. It's very...
But then they go their separate ways.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which, that's hilarious. 2 movies with Empire in the title, and both of them have ice villains. And the action only happens when there's 15 minutes left in the movie. That's another similarity to 2021 with all these movie releases. So, but yeah, they're hardly in the movie together at all, and it's sad too because the trailer and the marketing made it look like they would be together the whole movie.
That's what the title implies.
On the poster, you see them together. In the trailer, all you see is them together, basically. And then in the movie, you're just sitting there watching human crap. And these humans suck. They're terrible. It would be a really fun video for Safi, I'm sure, to rank all the human characters in the MonsterVerse because they're so bad. They're so one-dimensional. And it's weird because these actors are good. You know, you have that woman, Rebecca, and she, you know, when I look at her, all I can think about is The Gift, which Safi and I saw in theaters.
Long time ago.
And Safi's pretending like she can't remember. It was 2014.
I remember, like, somebody put The Gift on the porch?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that was a fantastic film. That was
it was a good movie.
A very good movie. And that's all I can think about, because that's like an actual movie. And when you see her in this, it's like, what is going on here? Like, because... like, yeah, like, I don't like the human stuff, but maybe if the human characters were good, maybe if they actually were written well, I would like them.
I don't know.
Because, like,
that's true.
That Godzilla movie we just watched, right?
That was better.
Yeah.
But that was done by, but the thing is, that was just the Godzilla. And I think, isn't King Kong like an American-made character?
I
don't think it's a Japanese character.
I think it's a Universal monster movie, so yeah, but
okay.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
I know that, but the Japanese company, whatever, is it the same one that did the other Godzilla movies? Didn't you say they were related somehow?
What?
They did a good job with that Godzilla movie. It won an Oscar. I mean, come on.
It should have won all the Oscars.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But anyway, they won an Oscar. And you know why? Because it was authentic.
Because it was a movie. And there were characters and story.
Yeah.
And it felt real. And that's the other weird thing. How much budget did this movie have? Because
it had to have a lot with all that CGI.
The Godzilla minus one, $135 million.
Oh my god!
Let's look at Godzilla minus one budget, because that movie looked incredible. Godzilla looked real. Oh, $15 million. That's so much less than what the people who made Godzilla X Kong had, and yet Godzilla minus one looked real. It looked perfect. It looked amazing. That's pretty bad. But then again, I mean, I guess it's kind of.
But that was just a Godzilla movie by the people who made the character up.
No, they're not the exact people, Safi. I mean, just because they're Japanese,
they're probably all dead.
Yeah, just because they're Japanese doesn't mean they're all the same.
They
Safi
knew how to make it authentic. They knew how to make a movie
for
less money.
But what do you mean, like, authentic? Like, there's no such thing as Godzilla.
There was a story. They even played the music.
Oh, yeah, they did. And that's,
I would say... original music, the whole thing.
I would say one of the biggest issues with this movie...
Oh, God.
Out of all the issues, is that after watching Godzilla minus one and hearing that really good music, you come to this movie. And the music is, you know, they play... What are the songs that they play? These, like, random, like, songs from the 90s or 70s or something?
Yeah,
like, what are those...
Not from the 70s.
What are those songs? Like, do you know, like, the titles?
No.
They play these...
I recognize the song. All I can think of is the song they ended on. And I'm like, why are they playing that song?
Yeah, they play these random...
It doesn't go with it.
Random hit songs from the 90s. Doesn't make any sense at all. But then in Godzilla minus one, it's like, well, we're going to play the Godzilla theme.
And it was the exact one, the whole thing, which it even added more authenticity to it. Meaning, it was a good story, good effects, original music that everybody knows, everybody's familiar with, for less money. A lot less. It
felt like Halloween, where they play the music, and it's like in Halloween, Michael Myers comes on, and Godzilla comes on, they play the music. And in this movie, when Godzilla comes on, it's just generic action music, like action adventure, like they got this music out of a royalty-free store
Well, I was
online.
going to say,
Like-
do you think it was a problem that they weren't allowed to do the music?
No, Safi. But I don't know. It doesn't matter because at this point they've made 1, 2, 3, 4 movies in the MonsterVerse. They've had a chance to come up with an original theme for Godzilla. Like if they can't use the real one from Japan. But instead it's just like, what's the music sound like, Safi? It's like...
Bum, 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 bum.
Da, 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 da. Like, it's just so, like, generic and not interesting at all. It's such a factory-made score. That was one of the biggest issues for me, the music. Because we just watched that one.
The issue for me was it was just really basically, there was hardly any story, and I'm not even sure what the story is.
The story is you give them your money, and then you regret it afterwards.
And the thing that was really bizarre is, Godzilla appears, and he had to fight this monster. They show this like at the very beginning. And then he ends up in the Roman Colosseum. Like he hangs out there. And he naps there. He rests there.
That was really weird.
And then they show this whole huge thing with King Kong, which I guess it was a story because he finds this little ape and it's like a baby. And then it ends up to be this huge, an empire, I guess. And then, it's head by an evil ape.
And he's called the Scar King.
And he has his own monster. He's like a icy scaled stegosaurus.
Yeah.
Kind of like, but more ornate, more scales and.
I thought, and let's just say this, like, if you want to know, like, because I think that I found the perfect comparison to this movie, and I found it like 15 minutes in. I thought, this movie, it doesn't really feel like a movie. It feels like a TV show episode, just like Ghostbusters Frozen Empire did. And to me, I was really reminded of Saw 4 and Saw 5. In that point in that series where it felt like a TV show instead of a movie type of thing, like that's what it reminds me of. So if you guys like Saw 4, then you'll like this movie because I thought it was very, very similar in terms of how it felt.
A story with King Kong, of course, the little girl has this connection, and King Kong, he bit down on this animal. He was going to eat it, and I guess it broke his tooth. So he was in pain, and so they have to rush to him on this flying machine, which I don't remember from the other movie, but I guess they had it. I don't know.
Yeah, they did, Safi.
And they have this crazy Australian, and he's actually, I think he's a likable character. They're still shallow.
I didn't like the character. I thought he was terrible. I thought that he was definitely the worst human character in the movie, because that's Dan Stevens. They totally wasted him. I mean, he's another really, really good actor. I mean, when he played Charles Dickens and everything, he did a really good job with that. He's a good actor, and so he's a cartoon character.
Well, yeah, he just he kind of reminds me of they're trying to do what's that guy's name? Chris. The guy who's been in the Guardians, what is it?
Chris Kattan?
No! The guy who was married to that woman, and they had one kid, and she wanted to have more, and
let's just get back to the movie.
Anyway,
So anyways,
that's what it reminded me of. But anyway, we have this. So you have this parallel story that comes in with these human characters. But it really isn't much of any story. Mainly, it's King Kong's fighting this little ape, and then they have to fight this other big ape. That's really the biggest part of the whole movie.
The part of the story of these movies that I'm really getting sick of I'm getting sick and tired of in every single one of these fucking movies, every single one, there's always a scene at the beginning where a character goes to another character and they're like, you gotta help me with something and I'll give you whatever you want. And it's like, how many times are we just gonna see that same old scene over and over and over again? Like, you know all about this stuff. You gotta come and help me. Like, because it just, I guess it's just in the way that it was done. It was just so generic and bad. But like, it was so bad that, and it was funny because he points it out. The Alex Jones Jr. He points out Rebecca Hall has this new tomboy haircut, and I thought it was funny because they showed right then and there Rebecca Hall's only character development in between films is that she has a different haircut. And they point that out, and I thought, they must be writing this badly on purpose. Like, they must be... I don't know, though. I don't know. Because, like, it was a weird choice, too. I mean, she still looks okay, but it's just a weird choice. Right, Safi? I mean, she looks almost like the Godzilla monster. I mean, the King Kong monsters, like the little mini Kong.
Oh.
Like, she looks kind of like that now, like with that haircut.
Yeah.
And so I thought you could have had a scene where the Scar King rapes her. And
Oh, Marco, for God's sakes, I thought you were going to say that she was going to adopt that little ape.
I'm just kidding.
It's a CGI thing.
I'm just kidding, but like, I don't know. It's just something. I mean, something, because like,
there really is not much of a story. And
there's nothing here.
The little girl. So there's this other empire that's like juxtaposition against this ape empire, but they're all like related to that little girl who has a psychic connection to King Kong. And guess what they are? They're the Mothra people. And if you watched any of the Mothra movies from way back when, they had this special song that they sung, and they were twins.
And they didn't sing it in this movie, obviously.
No, they just did a bunch of lights, and Mothra was a lot different looking. She was a lot more of a... I mean, her wings were very ornate, but she's very skinny.
I preferred how she looked originally. I didn't really like how she looked, but it was cool to see her. But I don't know why we're talking about that right now. We're not anywhere near that part of the movie.
Story with the humans that's like juxtaposition against it. It's really the biggest part of the movie. Almost everything is this King Kong story. That's it. So you don't have any language. You have, violence and signs.
Anyways, back to the review.
Whatever.
Another thing that I thought was interesting was the blood in this movie. One of the another big issue that I have with the movie is the blood, because at the first scene of the movie, King Kong is fighting with the creature and he tears it apart or whatever, and there's green blood that goes everywhere, or yellow blood.
Yeah,
and
one of it was yellow.
It looks so fake and phony. Godzilla has a similar thing where he kills a monster or something and there's green goo blood going everywhere. And I thought, this is stupid as hell. They're just doing this because if it's red blood, it'll be rated R or something. Like, I thought that's really shitty that, like, they can't have red blood. Like, it just looks so cartoony. And in general, I think the computer generation in this movie did not look very good for a lot of it. It was very cartoony.
Well, also, and it didn't bother me before. I guess it's just because, of course you have both monsters coming into contact with human civilization and mowing down everything in their way. So first you have, Godzilla, he mows down 3 bridges with people on them. And I'm thinking about,
Okay, let's not get into that.
We just had that happen
let's not get into that.
It's just so fake to me. And then you have King Kong. destroying buildings in Rio de Janeiro. And I'm just like, that's just so fake. And it's just so, so many people be killed.
Well, let's get into the review. And so I would say with that is that a big thing lacking with this movie as well compared to Godzilla -1 is the lack of horror elements. The movie is not really a horror movie. And I think that this series, one of the biggest mistakes that they've made is not really making it a horror series. It's more so an action-adventure series with action in quotes, because there's hardly any action in the movie. There's like 15 minutes of action versus an hour and whatever how many minutes of just adventure with boring characters that suck. And there's the lack of horror is really weird because, King Kong, as we said, he was a universal monster. Godzilla, that's a horror movie. I mean, these movies are horror movies. They had horror elements. And you don't feel scared at all when you see Godzilla come on screen. You don't feel scared at all when King Kong comes on screen. And to me, that's a fail.
And they don't get... And what's funny is... it looks like the way they've come out that they're not going to get along, and so, but the way the title is, it's not versus one versus the other, meaning they're in a fight to see who's going to dominate. It's you don't know what it is, but it looks like, though, the way they present it, that Godzilla doesn't want to work with them. He doesn't want to play. And then King Kong, of course, he's got a short temper and he gets mad, and so it's like it takes them a while to get together to defeat that ape king.
It's very random too. It's not like in the trailer where they make it seem like they're going to be like buddy.
Well, that's what I was expecting for some reason.
They weren't,
because of the title.
They were just like,
well, they did, but not for very long.
Like 2 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And Godzilla, this movie, this was a major downgrade for Godzilla, this movie, because he's essentially nothing but a charging port in this movie. Like, all that he does this movie is charge his batteries,
which is interesting.
And
actually, I find that interesting just because it's funny when he does that. You hear this noise, this and then you see the plates on his back. It's like they light up pink, which is really weird. And then when they all get pink, he can blow out fire and destroy something in its path. I remember that from the last movie. So
his character, he's not really a character. And they said a lot before this movie came out where they talked about how the monsters were characters and that there was a lot more monster screen time and it really revolved around them, and I didn't really feel that at all. I mean, Godzilla, he was not a character. He was a charging port. He just charged the whole movie and waited for something to happen, and he was not a character at all.
No, it was just King Kong.
He was much more a character in Revenge of Godzilla. Which was my favorite one of the old series. King Kong was a character, and I will say, the best parts of the movie were with the monsters were all by themselves, interacting with each other. Like when King Kong goes to that new empire or whatever the fuck, and he meets the Scar King, and he interacts with the mini King Kong. That's the best part of the movie, because that's the part where it feels like, oh, this is the movie that I would have loved to have seen.
And they mainly focus on that. Everything else is almost just like a sideshow.
Yeah.
Even Godzilla is a sideshow. And then Mothra, and that girl who's related to Mothra somehow. But that's all a sideshow. Very it's like the thing with King Kong and that little ape, they could have just developed that.
They could have just had an entirely separate movie with just King Kong and the little ape called King Kong's New Empire. and then they could have made a separate movie called Godzilla's Charging Adventure.
Well, I do remember there was a Godzilla movie a long time ago, and it had it like a little baby Godzilla.
No, there's multiple. You have Revenge of Godzilla. That had the Godzilla.
Remember it was like a little boy.
There's Son of Godzilla too.
Yeah, that's probably it.
I haven't seen it though, but and even though that was silly,
it was silly, but
they were characters.
Yeah,
they're characters, Safi. It's not like in this movie where they're just CGI things and
I wish. Yeah, there it was. Anyway, the Japanese probably wonder, at least the filmmakers, are thinking like, what is the deal?
Why do they make Godzilla so shitty? Why did they make the movie so shitty? We want to make a Godzilla movie.
Don't do that.
We want to make a King Kong. We want King Kong.
An Oscar for their movie. I don't see an Oscar coming in this movie's direction at all.
King Kong x Godzilla. More like King Kong x shit.
Michael, what you're doing is stupid. Anyway.
It's true.
I don't know. I just, I don't know what else to say about it. I guess I said more than I expected to, but it's really, it's just, there's just not much to it. There's just this one, really a very focused story, I think, on this Godzilla versus this Scar King versus this little tiny dinosaur. Little tiny. I'm thinking about baby Godzilla in that movie. And then Godzilla is almost brought in to give the movie more chances to get money.
Video game elements.
Oh, maybe.
There's a lot.
I didn't even think about that.
There's a lot of video game elements in this movie, and because when I saw Godzilla, the whole movie, I was like, Godzilla is acting like he's in a video game, and he's just like doing a bunch of low-level stuff so that he can keep on leveling up until he can do bigger stuff at the end. Because, that happens a lot of times in video games when you can do that, where you go around killing a lot of, level 1 characters so that you can, slowly build up your experience and get money and things, and then you go fight the big boss.
Yeah.
That's what he did, basically, the whole movie. That was his character. And then King Kong, his whole story is that he's like an older King Kong, and he falls over. he falls over, and he just can't do it anymore. And they're like, what do we do? And the tomboy woman is like, oh, well, there's this plot convenience armor that we knew about all along, and we never gave it to him. And it's just in one of these random bases that got shut down after they discovered that we were going to help the monsters. It's conveniently there, and we can go get it right now. It's like a video game, too. Like, it's at one of the outposts. And just thinking about this could easily be like a video game. And then they easily get the power armor. It looks like a Transformers armor thing.
Yeah, for his arm. What was that about?
I don't know.
Did he hurt his arm? I didn't even see that.
I guess he just couldn't. He's so old that he just can't do anything. So they needed to give him Transformers armor.
Oh, okay.
And
well, I was thinking, did something happen to his arm that I missed? Like for his tooth, you could see he hurt his tooth.
What I really want to see for this movie is I really want to see somebody make a porn parody of this movie, because I thought, the title is just so obvious. You could change it from The New Empire to The Nude Empire. And I just think it would be really hilarious, because they probably do a better job than the people who made this movie.
I don't know. I just think they've gotten access to the CGI, and they've gone a little insane with it, and they have forgotten that they have to have a story to make a movie good.
Well, and there could have been a story, because I thought there could have been a Planet of the Apes type of story with that Scar King character, and it was really cool how he has this like whip. It's like a whip that's made out of like a spinal cord of like a dinosaur or something, and it's got this little crystal at the end that controls the bad dinosaur. And I thought this could have been like a Planet of the Apes type of thing, where he's got this like oppressive empire or whatever. I don't know. They try to take over America. I don't know, and it's something. But like no, instead it's just like these characters wandering around the forest for 2 hours, cracking jokes sometimes. There's one really cringeworthy joke where Dan Stevens and Alex Jones are in the Mothra land or whatever you call it, and one of them says something like bad, and then he changes it and he says, "This looks like a great place to raise a family." And he puts his hand on Dan Stevens to imply that they're gay or something.
He is gay, isn't he?
Who?
Dan Stevens.
I would hope not. I'll look it up right now.
Anyway.
Well, that would just be a surprise for me, because, no, Safi, he's married to a woman.
Okay.
You're, mistaken,
anyway,
as usual.
Yeah, I'm thinking about somebody else.
Think everyone's gay.
Yeah, right.
What are you
It
thinking?
just always seems to be that way, whether you think about it or not.
What are you thinking of Luke Evans? Because he's gay.
I don't know.
Luke Evans.
So what's really funny, though, at the end of the movie, you have the whole... Remember, we talked about Godzilla, or we talked about King Kong, and he's got this whole story. And like we said, we could have had a whole movie just about that. And all the rest of the sideshow. And then Godzilla, I think they just brought him in...
To make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's not in it much.
Sell things.
He goes back to the Roman Coliseum and takes a nap. And then King Kong, he goes in the jungle area is a special place. You know, the new empire.
The nude empire.
And they show them, and they're standing atop of this big bluff top, and there's this huge, beautiful valley, and everything's hunky-dory.
But that was another thing, too. Like, there weren't any female apes in this empire. And I was wondering, like, how did all these apes come to be in the first place? Because, like...
Yeah, that's a good question.
I couldn't tell... I mean, I know that there could be one explanation that, a lot of people won't believe in, but, that it's a solid explanation. It rhymes with mod. But, I mean, there were no female apes in this empire. Like, or at least I couldn't tell.
I couldn't either.
I mean, it was all men. It was
I didn't even think about
it
that.
was a sausage fest. And, I was wondering, what's up with that? Like, that's kind of weird. Like, what, that's not, that doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. So, anyway, I don't know what else to say. If you have any more good comments to say about the movie.
Where did the little one come from? I mean...
Yeah, I know. He was like the only one. But he was different. His fur was different. But, of course, if you think about different animals, when they're young, their fur or feathers or whatever might be completely different than when they're full grown. So, that may not have anything to do with anything. But he was all orange. And,
yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know. But anyway.
I would also like to comment and say that another thing that I think is trash is having to give the monsters all these upgrades. You think about Godzilla and Godzilla -1. He was like a walking, talking, or not, he didn't talk, he could have talked. But he was like a walking nuclear explosion waiting to go off. He had nuclear fire breath. He could destroy everything, probably destroy the world. And then you have this Godzilla, and he can't do anything because he's got a charge all movie. He's got to like charge up and just absorb electricity and power and things. And then King Kong, he can't even do the final battle without a special attachment that they just made to sell toys, so that kids could put a little toy attachment onto a toy King Kong. And you think, maybe this is not a good idea to do all this stuff, because maybe this is kind of hurting their image to say, like, Godzilla can't be Godzilla and he can't fight the bad guy without charging up pink power, Barbie power, and maybe King Kong, because King Kong, he's supposed to be like a legendary. You're supposed to fear him. You're supposed to think he's really scary, but he's likable though.
In the King Kong movie, the original one, they had the natives there. They had to give him a sacrifice.
Yeah.
And
the only sacrifice here...
everybody was scared of him.
The only sacrifice here is the script, because they obviously sacrificed that a long time ago. Right? Would you agree with that, though, that, like, giving them upgrades is, like, really a poor thing to do? Like, if anything, the villains should be the ones who get the upgrades. Like, you think about the Avengers, with Thanos getting the Infinity Gauntlet, he should get the upgrade. The heroes should have to do what they have to do to defeat him, unless it's, like, a really, really special occasion. Because, like, King Kong, he already had that axe from the last movie. He had that stupid axe. How many upgrades does he need? Like, in order to defeat, like, some generic bad guy for whatever sequel that they make.
And it was interesting, too, that animal that the Scar King had, that had extra plates, that was like its slave. And so when it was all over and the Scar King was dead, and also it had the ability, instead of charging and being able to up at, like, Godzilla, it charged up and got all white, and when it would breathe on you, it'd freeze you. Like, it was that chemical that you put on fire that makes everything cold and puts it out. But anyway, when the Scar King was dead, that animal became, they freed it, and it became with them, with King Kong and the Little Kong. It was like their buddy. They were all three ruling the kingdom. That was another weird thing. I thought that they didn't have to kill it.
Yeah.
It helped them because it hated the Scar King because he mistreated them all the time.
Well, and so I guess that's the new empire, but, like, who cares? Like, the new empire, like, I don't who cares about a new empire? Like, I care about the movie not being good.
If you just like the Kong story, and then you have Godzilla and Kong fighting it out very briefly, and then they get together to defeat this other. That's really basically.
Yeah.
And you like the little girl, and then you get to see Mothra and their version of it, and how she is related to Mothra, and also she decides that her, whatever she is, stepmother, whatever, adopted mother, she thinks that the little girl wants to stay there, but she doesn't. She wants to go back with her. So that's the other part of the story, and that's it. That's the whole movie. And like I said, Godzilla, he goes back to sleep in the Roman Coliseum.
Safi's really offended by that.
Well, I just think
what I thought was gay was the fact that Godzilla didn't even do any damage to it.
Well, I know.
And
I'm
it's
thinking,
like,
my God.
Oh, isn't that really convenient that Godzilla hasn't damaged the Coliseum in any way? That he's just left it. He's content with it. He likes it. It's like a baby pin.
Yeah, he curls up into a little ball.
And he closes his eyes, and they zoom in on that. It's like, you have ruined Godzilla's horror. Like, you have ruined his scary factor, his terrifying presence. Like, but it's not a terrible movie. I mean,
it's like you said. You just have to have certain expectations.
Yeah.
About what you're going to see or what you're not going to see.
It's very in the middle. The action is okay. I mean, I thought that the last movie was so much better. It had so much more monster stuff in it. It had a lot more action in it too. And I thought it was better all the way around, but still, they need to work on improving the movies, because, like, they get a lot of money compared to the people who made Godzilla -1. And the people who made Godzilla -1 made, like, an actual movie, and these people made a blockbuster that I guess it's going to make money because it's God. And that's another thing that I didn't mention, because Safi was talking about how when Godzilla and King Kong went to Brazil to fight the bad guys and stuff, she wasn't, like, impressed by it, and she thought it was very hokey. And I thought, what I was thinking about was it reminded me of that Transformers movie.
I've never seen any of those. So.
Well, I just heard about how in one of them or two of them, at the end of the movie, they would go to, like, a certain country. I think they went to China conveniently at the end of the movie, and it was, like, just a convenient way to, like, get the Chinese audience interested that, like, oh, look, the Transformers are in China conveniently. And that's what it felt like to me. It felt like, a lot of Brazilian people probably really loved this movie, or they really loved the MonsterVerse. They determined that, like, that's a big demographic for them. And so, let's take them to Brazil conveniently.
Yeah. I understand that. I just,
It
after
was
seeing
weird.
a reality of a thing like that, to see it, I mean, they were, like, right and left. They went through 3 bridges, and you could just see everything coming off, and, like, that's just fake. It's because if it was real, it would be a catastrophe, because there was 3 in a row.
Well, it would be horrifying.
And it would be horrifying, but it wasn't. It was hokey to me. It
Yeah.
wasn't, because I've seen the real thing, and it just didn't match it.
The last movie had such a better battle and so much better fights. Like, I can remember it too, because it was better. And what would you grade this in terms of food, Safi?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I've been thinking.
Because that's what we do.
I know. Well, I think this is going to sound weird, but I keep thinking about that monster that they have, the Scar King has on a leash that's like a Stegosaurus with ice plates, lots of plates. Stegosaurus has like a certain amount.
He is white too.
Yeah.
He is a white dinosaur, and so you could say he is also a white supremacist.
No, I'm not thinking about that. Anyway, he's very ornate. He's a lot more ornate and a lot bigger than a Stegosaurus. And he has a lot more plates, like I said. And I don't know, I was thinking about a Frosty. That he reminds me of a Frosty. I don't know what else to say because...
What Frosty? I don't know, like, is that your review?
Like a vanilla Frosty.
Well, how would you know? You haven't really had that very much. And vanilla Frosty is better than the chocolate one.
It just... I haven't had a Frosty in a long time, but Marco has, and they've kind of degraded.
Well, actually, the vanilla one from last time was good, so...
Was it? Was it like a regular Frosty?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they have a big problem, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
They have a big problem with making Frosties like they used to.
It's really weird. This is a dessert they've had since its inception.
Yeah, that's like one of their trademark things. It's
Right.
Their biggest thing. And they just melt in 2 seconds, and, then they have the new flavors, which the last time we went there, I was going to try the orange creamsicle flavor, and they didn't have it.
No. In fact, I think that's gone now.
All they had was vanilla. You could not get the orange or chocolate. You could only get vanilla. And then you go to McDonald's, and the ice cream machine is broken again. And then you go to Big Boy, and they can't do anything because they're fucking retarded. So it's like, what do you do?
I don't know. But it reminded me of that because it got all frosty, and then it blew out instead of a big wave or a burst of hot air that melts everything and destroys it like Godzilla, it breathes out a breath that will freeze you, like that stuff that comes out of a canister to fight fires. So what is that stuff called? Anyway, it foams up and it can, if you got that on, you probably lose your hand, or fingers, whatever. It has the effect of dry ice. Anyway, so that's what it reminds me of. I don't know what else to say. How it would remind me of anything else. So what about you?
Well, I just thought of something that is very, very superficial and simple and just really kind of childish and kind of like, this could have been a lot better if the people who made Godzilla -1 helped them, I guess. And so I thought about Mega Fruit Gum. Safi?
Mega Fruit Gum?
Yeah, haven't you had Mega Fruit Gum?
No.
Well, they're big, huge gumballs. They're huge. They're basically like as big as like a tennis ball or something. Like they're pretty big, and they're only like 50 cents. And I'd love to get some. Especially, they say they have a watermelon flavor. I've never had that flavor. I've only ever had, I think, green and maybe orange or red. And so I would just say this movie is like getting a green one and like a yellow one and like chewing them at the same time, which is not really a fun experience because they're huge and you could break your teeth and everything like King Kong did. And so that's what this movie kind of is. It's kind of like and that's another thing too that like the video stores used to have. They'd have the gumball machines, and that's what this movie's like. It's like you go into the video store and you get a couple of gumballs, and then you get your stupid movie for the weekend, and you go home, and it doesn't turn out to be that great.
Yeah.
And then Rebecca Hall gets another haircut. Stop doing that. Like, right, Safi? Like, why don't we tell her to stop? Like, this can't be like a Edward Scissorhands type of thing where she's just, like, addicted to getting haircuts and eventually something bad happens. Like, she's got to stop now while she's ahead. Right?
Well, it's just a matter and ease of getting ready to do the part, which really wasn't much to it, except memorizing her lines.
There was a lot of courage to get that haircut and then have like that be like her entire plot of the movie. Like as I said at the beginning of the movie, the Alex Jones sees her and he's like, "You got a new haircut," and it's like that's her only character development in the movie. Right?
Yeah. So anyway, I think we're finished now, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers. We are past the 500 mark and growing daily. So goodbye, everybody.
Bye!